I got my first boyfriend at the age of 22.
I've never had the comfort of someone's arms around me.
As someone who's never been in a long-term serious relationship, I feel like I am constantly in a state where I never feel good enough.
When you're the only person out of everyone you know who's never had a relationship, you start to ask yourself a lot of questions. Is there something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? Will I be single forever?
If you're still single, there must be something wrong with you.
When did it become normal to romantically talk to 7 people at the same time?
The more you think about it, the more reasons come up. It's because I'm too independent. I'm too focused on school. I'm too focused on work. My standards are too high. There's an endless list that you create for yourself. When everyone around you seems to have a relationship or relationships seem to come easy to them, your endless list of reasons why you're single just gets longer and longer. What if the problem isn't actually you? What if it's something much more minute instead? Hey, if you're new, I'm Christina and I make videos for people who are feeling lonely. If you're a people pleaser, overachiever, overthinker, over anythinger, then you're in the right place. You are an 18, 19, 20, 23, 25, maybe even 30-year-old who's never had a relationship. This will probably consume a lot of your mental capacity. Like, when you're surrounded by other people your age, who's on their second boyfriend, their third girlfriend, they're moving in with their partner, they're talking about starting a family, you can't help but think, is there something I'm doing wrong? You can't help but question certain things. Is there something I'm doing wrong? Is there something that I'm missing? Will I be single forever? Because you ask yourself all these questions, you start to come up with answers. And in your head, you start to think, oh, it's because I'm too independent. It's because I'm focused too much on school. It's because I'm focused too much on my work. It's because I'm too ambitious. I'm too intimidating. I'm too this, too that. Fill in the blank. Because you're coming up with all these sort of excuses as to why you've not found your person, why you're single, why something that comes so easily to everyone else is quite hard for you. This list in your head, you don't realize it at first, but it slowly starts to make you feel a little bit insecure. Like, oh, I'm going to be behind when I eventually do get in a relationship. There's going to be so many things that I don't know. I'm going to have no experience. I literally saw a TikTok the other day. I think it was like a clip from a YouTube video where they were asking, how long was your longest relationship?
What's y'all's longest relationship?
Never been in a relationship.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
It's the worst. So now we know, worst kisser, worse in bed.
These are the things we worry about. When you're that guy who's never had a relationship and you think, oh no, but I research, I read up on dating and relationships and communication, you watch TikToks and dating advice, it's not like you're completely inept on how to manage a relationship or how to communicate. But this sort of thing makes you panic in the back of your mind because is that what people really think? I think a lot of people who are slightly older and have never been in a relationship, I feel like we have a fear of love. Or a fear of closeness, maybe even fear of intimacy, you could say.
Have you ever been in love?
I've never been in love before. I've actually never been in a relationship. I think that as soon as someone starts liking me, I mentally can't accept it, so I kind of just run away. I just get a very strong physical ick if someone expresses that they're into me. I like them until they like me. Yeah.
Do you think there's a bit of fear around closeness with someone?
I think so. I think maybe I just get freaked out with the concept of attachment to someone. I grew up in Norway with my mom and my dad lived in France. They actually were never married, but they were never together. So I don't know, maybe I've had a weird perspective on the idea of family.
She gets the ick when someone likes her. She likes them up until they like her back. I don't want to hyperfixate on the words that she's used, like ick and freaked out, because what she's describing, I think a lot of other people will also experience, but they won't use the word ick. I can relate to some of what she's describing. I don't get the ick if someone likes me, but I panic. It's literally honestly a fight or flight situation where I'm genuinely scared. What I found interesting was in the comments, a lot of people were talking about an avoidant attachment style. There is an amazing book which does a deep dive on all the attachment styles. I'd highly recommend it actually, especially if you're someone who's never had a relationship or someone who has unhealthy, maybe toxic relationships. It's called Attached. I'll link it down below. This book, it's one of the books you'll read and you get a whole new perspective on yourself. You learn about you. You're reading the book and you're like, oh my God, this guy is describing me. That was what happened when I opened the book and read the avoidant attachment chapters. When you're an avoidant attached person, They are the stereotypical, hyper independent, focused on their jobs, focused on work, climbing the corporate ladder. I don't need friends. I don't need relationships. I don't want to be distracted. I just want to focus on like my work. I have a feeling if you're slightly older, not been in relationships, my guess is that you'd probably lean more avoidant, because as time goes on in your life and you're a bit more grown up now, you've graduated, you've got a job, you're focusing on yourself, maybe you've got your own place, you're like working on yourself, and you're preoccupied with all the amazing things you've got going on in your life, that you probably see relationships, and especially dating, because dating and going on first dates and then relationships are quite different. Like, I'd actually consider myself quite a good dater, because I've been on so many, like I've been speed dating so many times with, like, I've done it on my own, and then I've done it with friends, because it's always funny with friends. But then like an actual relationships where it's long term, I'm just with one person, I have to get really close and open up and be honest, which normally makes me panic. Like, that I have no experience with. And I have a feeling, for me, it's because of my avoidant attachment style, and because just closeness is a bit scary. Like, it doesn't feel safe in my mind. Maybe that's why I always panic. It just feels like something I should like worry about, and like this isn't safe. Something else you probably do if you're someone who's never been in a relationship, you probably hyperfixate on your flaws. When you ask yourself certain questions. Why am I still single? Why has no one asked me out? Why does no one ever look at me like how they look at her? Why does no one ever compliment me? Why do I never get comments on my Instagram pictures that say like, oh, stunning or beautiful, gorgeous? Why is it only ever the people that I don't like that approach me? Why is it the people that I'm not interested in that ask me out? When you ask yourself these questions, you start to create a list. I'm going to call it like the endless list. It's like an endless list of reasons, excuses as to what's wrong with you. I have never had a boyfriend. I've never experienced love, and I've never done anything romantic at all, and I feel behind. Most of the people I know have had some experience, and I've had nothing. I fear I don't even know what to do if I was in a relationship. I feel like this was me for a really long time. Like, I feel so experienced. I've not done anything romantic. I wouldn't know what to do. It's weird because you have this endless list of reasons why you've not had a relationship, and the list gets longer and longer, and you kind of flesh out this list. You really believe the list. And what I've noticed is if you ask yourself certain questions, your brain will just come up with answers. For example, if I said, oh yeah, think about, like right now, have a think about why global warming is at an all-time high. You can probably tell me like, not enough recycling, too much landfill, not enough electric cars. There's still so many like petrol cars, gas cars, diesel. You'd be able to come up with like a million answers. And then if I told you, oh yeah, sit on that question for the next few months, for the next few years, you'd probably come up with more and more answers as to why climate change is so bad. You'd come up with you'd probably start to research it. You'd ask yourself questions. You'd probably start to look on TikTok as well, because you're going to like ruminate on it. Just like how you can think and ruminate on climate change and why climate change is so bad. You probably unconsciously chosen to ruminate on why you're still single. And that's why you have such like insecurity about it, or so many questions, because that's your question of choice to ruminate on. And what I like to say is like, if you ask a bad question, you're going to get bad answers. But if you ask a good question, you'd get good answers. I feel like a more empowering question, or a more like confidence boosting question to ask yourself is like, why am I such a good person? Why would I be a great person to go out with? Why would I be a good partner? Why would someone be lucky to be with me? It sounds cringe. Like, even as I'm saying it, I'm like, that sounds like proper weird. Like, I hope no one downstairs can hear me. But like, if you sit and ruminate on all the negative parts of you, or all the parts of you that are too much because you're too hardworking, too independent, too intimidating, if you ruminate on that too much, you're going to believe it, and it's going to become valid in your mind. It's going to be so valid that you're like, oh yeah, this is the reason why I'm single. Like, you're going to lead with that. Versus if you lead with like a more empowering question, why am I a great person? Why would someone be lucky to be with me? And you ruminate on that, you're going to then lead with a more positive aspect. Another common thing that I've noticed that we maybe all have, those of us that have never had a long-term relationship, is that sometimes we think being single is better than settling. For example, give this video a thumbs up if you've ever thought like, oh, there's no one around me that I know that's like quite on my level. Like, no one's quite good enough. No one meets my standard. I'm too intimidating for everyone. Like, I just don't think anyone would like handle me. I do believe being single is better than settling. However, I think that we have like really disproportionate fear of settling. I think settling to different people means different things. To me, I've learned after reading an incredible book called How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury. In her book, she really taught me that settling isn't like going out with a person like way, way, way below your level of standard, and they're unemployed, they're in terrible health. They don't look after themselves. They've got terrible hygiene. Settling, from what she described in the book, and like what I now see settling as, is like, you find someone who is really amazing. Like, they actually really inspire you. They're a lovely person. They're so funny. There's a few areas where you're not 100% compatible, and your instinct might be like, oh, well, you know, it's not going to work because they have different beliefs around private education versus public education. Maybe they have different political beliefs. When there's like a minor incompatibility, I now see that as like, this could be an area where you can actually communicate and work on things rather than just completely abandon this person, abandon this relationship. But I've noticed for sure we're hyper selective now. And I feel like the list of things that qualifies as a red flag is just getting lower and lower. Like, a red flag used to be you show up to the date late, you're rude to the waitress, you speak about women on the date in a derogatory way. It almost used to be like red flags reflect your values and things that are like non-negotiable. But now I feel like red flags are almost becoming a bit gimmicky, and like anything can be a red flag. Wearing the wrong outfit could be a red flag. Having like dirty trainers could be a red flag. I've realized you have to kind of differentiate kind of a red flag and a non-negotiable from just like a flaw that someone has, because we all have flaws, but we never sit and think about what are the flaws that I'd happily accept that my partner has, and what are some of the red flags that I just will not put up with. And this is how I now see settling. Like, I know my partner will have flaws because I have flaws, but I now have to think, okay, these are the flaws I'm happy to settle for. Like, I'm happy to settle for maybe dirty trainers, because who doesn't have dirty trainers? In the UK, it is literally raining outside. Or a flaw I'm completely happy to accept is not having a work-life balance, because I don't have a work-life balance. Completely okay with my partner having flaws, and they could be the flaws that I have, they could be different flaws. I just accept, and I'm happy to settle for flaws. Any red flag is a future argument, is how I see it. Like, a red flag for me, something that could be a future argument, is like someone expecting me to like be more chilled and to work less. Like that, like we'd have an argument over that, because that's just like my value. One of my values is just like to fulfill my purpose. Like I find purpose and joy in working a lot. I really do. I have a healthier balance with it now. But if someone told me like, you need to rest more, you're always too busy, you're working too much, have your weekend off, like we would have beef. Videos online will tell you to like script and manifest your perfect partner and write a list of all the things that you want them to have. But I think equally, just so your expectations are realistic, it's helpful to write a list of all the flaws that you're okay with them having. That being said, I don't want you guys, especially if I know some of you guys are slightly younger, do not put relationships on a pedestal. Relationships are not a prize. And the reason why is because not all relationships are created equal. Like, you might look at some relationships and be like, oh wow, their relationship's perfect. I see comments like that on TikToks, like, wow, goals, I wish this was me. I wish a boy would treat me this way. A relationship is not a prize. Please bear in mind, any relationship that you go into, you are bringing yourself with it. Like, your life, your tone of voice, your thinking, they all come into the relationship with you. You cannot leave yourself behind. If there's a certain part of you that feels like you're always self-sabotaging and you ruin things before they can get good, you always shut down things that are going well, bear in mind, if you had your goals relationship, goals boyfriend, goals girlfriend, you are bringing yourself with it. Like, sometimes the dream relationship is not the prize at all, because if it got handed to you right now, you actually wouldn't have the secure attachment, the open communication, the healthy boundaries, the ability to handle flaws and understand the difference between flaws and red flags. You wouldn't be able to handle it, and it wouldn't work out. The real prize, in my view, is not the relationship. The real prize is the person that you become in the process of trying to get a relationship. Everyone has a desire for a relationship. I know it's a bit embarrassing to admit that, like, oh, I want a relationship, I want a boyfriend. As a human, it's literally in our DNA. Like, even if you don't want to admit it and you don't want to be like embarrassing and be like, oh, I do want a boyfriend. Like, we all at our core do want love and companion around us, whether that's partner, family, friends. But I really don't see a boyfriend as the prize. Like, I see me becoming a better version of myself that can communicate honestly. She is the prize. Like, that is the prize, because she's the person that can handle the relationship well. She's the person that's not going to sabotage and self-sabotage and ruin it before it even gets anywhere. And on this note, not all relationships are created equal. Honestly, speaking to some people that I've known from like way back to high school, a lot of the things I hear are people complaining and like complaining about things. They're unhappy with their relationship. They're not happy with the treatment they're getting. They wish they could leave, but they stay because they're too scared to leave. Please don't think that everyone else is having a better time than you just because they're in a relationship, because that could not be further from the truth. There are people so uncomfortable being single that they would rather be in a terrible relationship than be on their own. If you're happy with your own company, you have something that so many people don't have, which is liking yourself. Like, you like your own time. So many people don't have that, and to fill that void, they have a terrible, not flaws, but they settle for red flags. So they're having constant argument. There are so many hardworking, ambitious, driven people that I feel like they don't realize they self-sabotage all of their hard work before they can even get started. And I made a video all about like my experience with this and tips and stuff. I'm going to link it here.